Ernie, looking at the numbers for September, is talk about a double-dip recession sort of overblown, or are we seeing the numbers reflect that?
I think the fears of a double-dip recession are overblown. Our survey of supply managers in 9 states, 600 to 700 businesses in 9 states, for the month of September, and even other months that we've done this monthly survey, the index was up for the first time since May, but looking good. I mean, most of the factors were looking good. The job picture looks pretty good, although it is still not seeing the job growth we'd like to see. So I would call it a good report. Confidence was down significantly, and that's a real troubling factor. But what that's telling me is the businesses are saying, well, it looks good for us, but look out for the overall economy. Well, if you got all the companies coming together, and if they're all doing well, even if they do see a less optimistic output, we're probably going to see some gains in the months ahead. Now, there are some real troubling features that, of course, they see.
One of those troubling features I know you've talked about before is Congress and what we could be headed for come January.
Oh, absolutely. Cindy, our confidence index was ever so slightly above growth neutral. Not a good signal. And what the businesses, the supply managers are telling us is there's so much uncertainty out there. The uncertainty with the health care bill that's being implemented now, at least portions of it. We've got the tax increase, which is slated to go in effect, a tax increase, unless Congress and the administration do something quickly, slated to go in place or enacted, or failure to enact is going to go in place on January 1, 2011. It's a massive or mammoth tax increase as we talk today, Cindy, and that's affecting how businesses see the outlook, and of course increasing taxes in this fragile economy. And this, even though I'm saying the economy is looking much better, it's still a fragile economy, and it's still not the time to be raising taxes. It's still not the time to be threatening China. It's still not the time to be raising barriers to trade.
One of the things we've talked about is the recovery in 2001. We're seeing very similar sort of situation here, except that was a jobless recovery as well, but they had a tax cut to look forward to.
That's right. 2001, that recession, the Clinton recession, if you wish to call it that, the one Bush inherited, that recession, it was a jobless recovery. We had the 2001, 2003 tax cuts. Now we're looking at a tax increase. I think, and I'm crossing my fingers, that the Congress comes back after the elections in early November and passes and continues at least a large share of those tax cuts. Now we'll have to wait and see. Gridlock in this case is not good. We have gridlock. We're talking about, again, a massive tax increase going into effect January 1, and that will slow the economy, and that has the potential to pull down growth significantly and even potentially push us back into a recession.
What about jobs for the region, though? We are seeing, where there's jobs, it's above growth neutral, but not especially high.
Nothing to write home about, Cindy. We're still seeing unemployment rates, even though for all the states in this part, the 9-state region, every state has an unemployment rate below the national average. Several states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska, about half what the national rate is of unemployment. So the employment picture is better here, but still not nearly as good as we had before the recession began in December of 2007. So it's going to take, in my judgment, we're not going to be back to those pre-recession employment levels till probably the end of 2011. So that's the earliest. It could be delayed. Again, it depends a lot on what happens in terms of tariffs and trades and trade restrictions. It has a lot to do with what happens in terms of the tax increase that we may or may not see in January 1 of 2011.
What What industries are we seeing, which ones are performing well, or which ones are sort of struggling?
Cindy, the industries that are doing well, heavy manufacturing, doing well, especially those that export, industries which have ties to agriculture, doing well. So what it's telling us is those industries, those businesses that depend on the domestic economy not doing as well. So if you're connected to the global economy, and that's certainly agriculture, agricultural equipment manufacturers, those are doing very well, probably going to continue to do well. I think Europe is going to do much better than what we've been thinking. Asia, of course, has been growing, will continue to grow. That's going to be a wonderful market for products from this part of the country, the midsection of the country. And of course, I'm counting on the Congress and the administration not raising trade barriers, not sticking a stick in the eye of the Chinese, for example. That would not be good policy, would hurt this part of the country, hurt the nation, in fact.
While it may be early for us to think about it, I'm sure manufacturers and businesses are thinking about the upcoming holiday season. How is that looking?
Looking pretty good, Cindy. I think we had 1 in 5, 20% of the businesses said they expect sales to be up over 5% from last year. So a 5% growth is pretty good. Now, on the flip side, about half that, or 10%, expect sales to be down by more than 5%. So you got that almost double the number of firms, percentage of firms think holiday sales are going to be up by more than 5% than think they're going to be down by 5%. The vast majority, of course, in the middle, the other 70% in there. I think this is going to be a pretty good holiday buying season. It's going to be better than what we anticipated. Of course, we're not going to be back to the 2005, the 2004, 2006 holiday buying seasons, but we're on our way back. We're definitely on our way back. The businesses tell us things are looking better.
What else about the region that you see in the report?
You know, Cindy, this is very important, and we hear so much from the Fed and other economists about deflation. I think that's way, way overdone, overblown. We see inflationary pressures now. This is at the wholesale level, not at the retail level, not at the consumer level, but there is budding inflation, and we are seeing some price bubbles. So I think the Fed it needs to get in front of this, I should say, and take some steps so that we're not faced with excessive inflationary pressures, perhaps as early as the second half of 2011. Now, our survey again shows budding or building inflationary pressures. Still not, we're not talking about the inflation of the 70s or the 80s.
Okay. Anything else to sum up the report?
Well, to sum up, another factor to provide an end point to this, the inventory levels, we're still seeing growth coming from the building up of inventories. Got to see the consumer see the consumer begin to buy, got to see businesses begin to invest in capital equipment, not inventories. That's going to be very important. We've yet to see that kick in. We will see it in the months ahead.